We got this story, this Twitter thread from Matt Taibbi, and it's all right here. Check this out. Post number 20 of today's Twitter files. This post is about the Hunter Biden laptop situation. Shows that Yoel Roth, not only met weekly with the FBI and DHS, but with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Take a look at this. This post. The most important thing, it says, in short, FML, weekly sync with FBI, DHS, DNI re-election security. The meeting happened about 15 minutes after the aforementioned hacked materials implosion, blah, blah, blah. That right there says one thing very, very simply. Twitter was regularly meeting with federal law enforcement for quote unquote election security. But Twitter was being advised that there was going to be hacked materials and other things like that. We know that the FBI contacted them specifically about that. We now know they had consistent weekly meetings to the point where they were actually like, oh man, gonna have to miss our weekly meetup with federal law enforcement to figure out what's not allowed. This Twitter thread's actually very, very crazy. There's one post where, let me see if I can, there's so many of these. Look at this one. Yoel Roth said, very boring business meeting that is definitely not about Trump. Pretty much. Definitely not meeting with the FBI, I swear. LMAO. It would sound and it would appear, I'm trying to be very careful, that Yoel Roth met with the FBI to discuss Donald Trump. I wonder what this was pertaining to. This Twitter thread from Matt Taibbi is specifically about banning Donald Trump. He says, after J6 internal slacks show Twitter executives getting a kick out of intensified relationships with federal agencies, here's Yoel Roth lamenting a lack of generic enough calendar descriptions to concealing his very interesting meeting partners. Sounds to me like the FBI was meeting with Twitter and they colluded ultimately to come to the decision to remove Donald Trump, the first sitting head of state to be suspended from a platform. And aside from that, the other information showing that they were having regular 2020 election security meetings. And we know that the FBI warned them about the Hunter Biden laptop situation and they had access to this. So to me, I think this is the bare minimum confirmation the FBI was directly interfering in the 2020 election.
I mean, it's pretty clear after all the circumstantial evidence is coming together, and there's a lot of it, specifically highlighting the involvement of this. And I kind of want to bring back what U.S. Congressman Chuck Schumer said a couple years ago in 2017, when he was directly addressing Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was having problems with the intel agencies, with the FBI. He said, quote, the intel officials have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So I think it's fair to say that there was a lot of infighting, and it's fair to say that there was federal agencies, intel organizations, military psyops officers that were working at these big tech social media companies. There was a revolving door between all those institutions and a lot of these bigger companies, not just Twitter, but also Facebook, also Alphabet, also Google. And when you look at this revolving door, you clearly see a conflict of interest, people abusing their power, not just meeting together, but making big decisions. And this is what I said when the first Twitter files were coming out. I'm like, this is just bare minimum. This is still just scratching the surface, as there was a former FBI agent that was critically involved in this whole Trump collusion story that was involved in censoring it from the very beginning. So now I think we're seeing some of the layers of this onion unravel. A lot of people are going to be crying. And I think we're still only seeing the surface of what's a deeper relationship between the intel community and, of course, big tech social media that are working hand in hand together.
I've mentioned that it's happened before, and that I feel like, but we talk about how like it's a frog in the pot boiling, the water's boiling slowly, and we don't feel it heating up because it's happening so slowly. But think about Nixon, man. The last time we had a corrupt government spying explosive news piece, it was Nixon. Well, that wasn't the last time, but Nixon and Watergate. He resigned the presidency because he was found spying on another campaign.
Do you remember when President Trump was still president? There was a legislative bill put in against big tech, and it went into the Senate, and they knocked it down. He warned about all the censorship, and it didn't get passed through the Senate. Do you remember that?
No, what was it?
It was. You remember, Tim?
No, I was going to say from 2016 to 2018, the Republicans were actively working against Trump.
Exactly. And especially with big tech, because I know he warned them about it, and they didn't follow through when they could have, when they had control. Now, there's no control.
I'm sorry, I need to clarify. They've always been working against Trump. But I mean, when they had full control of the Senate and the House, they were going along with the whole Russiagate lies and all of that stuff. Check this. I want to show you guys this tweet from Matt Taibbi. Check this out. Here, the FBI sends reports about a pair of tweets, the second of which involves a former Tippecanoe County, Indiana councilor and Republican named John Basham, claiming between 2 and 25% of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. So they said, here, we just got a report from the FBI concerning 2 tweets related to the shredding of mail-in ballots. This is proven to be false via this, PolitiFact. Do we have a moment ready for this one? I believe this was deemed no VO on numerous occasions. So this is the FBI contacting Twitter saying, remove this guy's speech. On what grounds? PolitiFact says it's not true. But on what authority does the federal government have to flag the speech of a private individual to be removed from a platform? Zero, none, period. It's pure corruption. Look, I don't like the idea of misinformation. I think PolitiFact is full of garbage. They lie all the time. The fact that partisan leftist organizations can claim something's not true, the FBI then goes to Twitter and Twitter says, "Oh, look at that. Guess we got to remove it." This is
it's
pretty
pretty
subversion.
Some people are saying collusion. Other people are saying conspiracy.
I think they're all true.
I think all those references could be true.
They use PolitiFact as proof. They use the word, this is, quote, proven. You don't take one news article and use that as, quote, proof. Like, you need to look around. If you're going to make a big decision like that, like ending someone's Twitter experience, you got to know. You can't just willy-nilly say, like, this piece of evidence indicates proof. That's a big problem.
They don't have the assets to do it.
Who doesn't?
The FBI, they could look into anything. They shouldn't just be going by one news.
They don't. I think at this point, we can clearly see the FBI is effectively only going after their political enemies.
Yeah, I think what really happened is that they saw an article that they liked that verified what they wanted to be true, so they said it was proof. But I mean, no human realistically can look at one news article and use that as a piece of proof for something. That's ridiculous.
After the plethora of crimes committed against us here, as well as people on our periphery, if the FBI lifted a single finger, I might be inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, it's these bad apples in D.C. But at this point, considering you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene being swatted, seemingly no action. We've been swatted now, I think, like 15 times, no action. And there's been other crimes in the periphery of the work we do with people we know, and zero action. To the point where I've actually had people say to me, when we're talking privately, I can't say some of this stuff because I'm hoping something does get involved, like something does happen with law enforcement. But I've had people say to me, like, well, did the FBI do anything about that? And I'm like, no, of course they didn't. It's been 2 years. There's nothing being done. So I will just say, at this point, I think it's fair to say, the FBI is not going to do anything. They'll go after a garage pull rope for a NASCAR driver, but they're not going to deal with the seriousness of crimes. They're going to this is them directly interfering in the election. It is a criminal organization.
Honestly, tell you what happened personally to my family with the FBI. There were 2 tips called in to the FBI about my daughter's shooter, and they dropped the ball on both of them.
Wow.
They didn't follow up.
He was
going to be a shooter.
Was the shooter a Democrat or,
he was just a piece of garbage, But they called it in twice to the FBI, and they dropped the ball. They ended up getting held accountable. They were actually one of the only entities that admitted failure in the shooting, but they also and that happens in many shootings. They were constantly dropping the ball. But what's their concern with Twitter? You know what I mean? There's people getting shot, and here they are censoring and working with Twitter when they're dropping the ball on mass shootings.
You're specifically mentioning the Parkland shooter, is that correct?
Correct.
Because we see this time and time again, known to authorities. There's
Correct.
So many instances where he was either undercover or working or known to local police officers, state officers, or in the most situations, let's be honest here, federal officials, federal government officials, especially at the FBI, who were warned many times. And it's just mind-boggling and head-scratching for the average citizen to be like, oh, he was known again, and they didn't stop it. But if there's an abortion activist, if there's a parent-teacher conference activist, they're going to be on them like white on rice. They're going to be investigating them, spying on them. They're going to be jailing people just like they are for peacefully singing hymns outside of abortion clinics. That's what the FBI is spending their resources on right now. But all these mass shootings always go free when we have the biggest national security surveillance dragnet in all of recorded human history. The government sees and watches almost every aspect of our life, databases it in these huge server rooms, rooms, watches over everything, and we're gonna believe them when they say, oh, this convenient event that works towards our agenda, that gives us more power and authority now, that more people will have to rely on us on, just accidentally happened. We knew that there was a suspect here, but he just fell through the cracks once again. I
and
don't
it
know.
happens over and over.
I know. It's crazy.
FBI.
It's absolutely infuriating.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.